everything's getting clearer.
Well, as it should be. That's my intent. You know,
Okay, me too.
yeah, I don't know how any of that really happens. I know it's possible if I don't get in the way of it, if I don't discredit the idea or discount the idea. I know that, you know, I can serve that purpose, and that no effort on my part would be required. So, I mean, it's kind of like it goes under the heading of the least I can do, you know?
Yeah.
Sort of like having a boyfriend that doesn't do anything, but it gets done.
But everything gets done, exactly. You know, that could be a problem if you really were attached to the idea that your significant other had to look busy, or had to look like they were sweating or working at it or efforting at it. That would be a problem then, you know. You'd feel like, you know, no pain, there wouldn't be any gain. He's not really, you know, doing the job. But yeah, there's a lot to be said for that whole realm of I need do nothing, you know, a lot to be said for that. And that opens up just vast opportunity for all of us, you know, really in all domains of our life, you know, in the personal experience, in our relationship with ourselves, in our relationship with God, in our relationship with all the historical figures, whoever they may be, that are of importance and that matter to you, family members, revered teachers, ascendant masters, any of that. I mean, if you would be willing to accept the idea that all of the things I love, most of all, are always in some experience of presence, of being here, right? There really is no past and there is no future, and everything created is forever, remains forever. Then that collective experience, that unanimous, all-inclusive, unconditional experience would have to be here.
And how do you take that from the cerebral to the actual feeling of
I have no idea.
Uh,
Yeah, but it would, I don't know, it's like whatever those steps would be, you know, those little steps might be represented, say, for instance, in the willingness to see God the Father as my Father who art in heaven, but also whose heaven is art, the art of myself, you know. Anything you could do to reinterpret all of those time-space-oriented conditions into the unconditional presence that it really represents. I mean, that's the way to let life live, to let everything come alive. Since by the very nature everything is alive, not at all the way I think of it, then the least I can do is not get in the way of that, not make any demands on the situation or anything that I perceive. Instead of deciding what everything is, what someone else means, what if I preempted all of that with the openness and the desire to receive the meaning of it, although I don't know how. By the grace of God, you know, by the miracle of Christ mind, by the reality of loving presence, everything would become known to me. So everyone, I think, develops a personal inventory of references that keep everything sort of in check, in place. Well, how about if you would be willing to allow everything to come out of place? Instead of being over there in that place that I always think of it, what if everything I loved most and cared for beyond all belief, what if all of that was right here with me, and it was right here with me all the time? I didn't have to reach for it. I didn't have to do anything to become aware of it other than to stand down, in a sense, or to stand up, to stand my mind, my defensive mind, my position, illusory oriented thinking, to stand all of that down, to be defenseless before my God, my Creator, before the living creation, before the presence of eternal love. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it feels that I think for each of us there's a process piece. There's cerebrally recognizing the lesson.
Right.
And then the effort to embody. And I think that's the part that is always on the edge of my thinking or on the edge of my reaction. There are times when you speak when there will be that glimpse that comes at a certain point. I don't know how I achieved it, and it's gone before I recognize the full value of it, but I don't know how to get back to it except to allow. And I think it's really a relaxing into it. It's a dropping of boundaries, preconceived notions, everything. As it washes down, then there is that moment, and then you're immediately back in the world again.
Well, but maybe not. Maybe
not at the same spot.
Well, maybe in each moment that you perceive yourself to be back in the world, what if that weren't true? And that would be the thought that most readily and most easily then gives you access to that next moment of what you really and truly want. Mm-hmm. Right? So that the thought of my world, the thought of my being in my world, the thought that I've lost it, would then quickly, or in no time at all, it would turn into the recognition that I can't lose it. That the thing I think just happened didn't really happen, in terms of, I lost it, in terms of I'm back in the world again. What if there was no world to be in?
Well, still the ability to reconnect with whatever that moment of clarity was.
Yeah.
And try to paste two or three of them together.
Yeah, well, maybe perhaps the best thought to facilitate that would be to acknowledge and recognize and assert that I am that conduit. I am that connection. I am the light of the world. I am the expression of the divine. I am the expression of God's love.
I went into a juice place because I like the juices here. So I've been trying to find a place in New Jersey.
A place in New Jersey
that would have a good juice.
A good juice, yes.
And somebody turned me on to a new juice place down on River Road. It's right on the Hudson River too. And I went in and I was completely disappointed because it was cold pressed juice. That means they already had made it and put it in the thing. And I felt the attitude come up, like my perception of what I wanted and how I wanted it and the way I wanted it, that I felt the attitude in me come up about it. And then I realized this woman went out of her way to make this place, this place really the best she could to provide, and made all these raw salads and things like that were there also, that were really lovely. And I quit my attitude for a second, and I said, how did you come to this, And she started telling me, and then the whole space just opened up, and there was just this feeling of, that there were no boundaries between us. There were no other places, and I could see how that attitude I had and my perception of how things should be just closed me off from
Absolutely.
Because it
How
really
can
wasn't
life
about the
nourish
juice.
you?
Right. It wasn't about the juice.
Yeah.
It wasn't about anything.
How can that juice give you everything that it's potentially able to give you if you deny it? If you deny it, its reality.
Right. And that woman, the beautiful place that she made.
Yeah. Oh,
and what
absolutely.
She was offering.
Yeah.
You know.
So I love that whole idea. So how did you refer to that? You referred to that. Hi, Ilsa.
Hi, Elsa.
You referred to that as quitting your attitude or something.
Yeah, it was just, I suddenly experienced this, him as the Father, okay? Because I've been asking him to please guide me from some of the stuff that I say and do and feel. And I explained that I had gone into a juice place. I was looking for a really good juice place. And I had an attitude about when I found out it was cold pressed juice. I found another one of these places, you know? And then I suddenly realized this woman really created something that she really loved and everything else. And I changed my attitude. And how did I change it? I think it came upon when I realized that I wanted to know about her. I wanted to know about what she did here, what it meant to her. And as soon as I did, it changed.
Yeah, you became interested.
Yes.
And interest is always a great place to begin a more intimate inquiry into anything. Interest.
And that's what it was. I became interested in what was she doing, where did she
You know, some of the most unhealthy people on the planet are people who spend a lot of their time and energy trying to be healthy. And I've gone through processes just like that as well, you know, where you can become so governed by the condition, the illusory condition called what's good for me and what isn't good for me, that everything, you literally can't enjoy anything anymore.
You know,
and even when you get the juice that you think is the right kind of juice, it just tastes like crap. you know, or
well, I can't say that about their juice over there.
Well, okay, that's fine. All I'm trying to say, you know, the whole idea is like, it's like the biblical injunction, don't blaspheme. What does that really mean? Don't speak judgmentally about anything. If everything inherently is of God, then everything inherently is of infinite worth and infinite value. And that's the understanding that allows you to honor that, to acknowledge that, to emphasize it, to speak to it, from it. That's what diffuses arguments, petty arguments, more heavy-duty versions of argument that could lead to saying things, doing things that might be regretful later on. The way to disengage from all of that is to be willing to see beyond that, to see what the truth of it is. Become interested in the truth. And then whatever thoughts you think, be they a reflection of what's true, or if they seem to indicate falseness, it's not a problem. Because you're already in the correction for that. You're already in the decision for God and His kingdom.
Because she was so happy, I was happy, everybody was happy.
Well, if there's any good in the juice, that's what it comes from.
It wasn't about the juice anymore.
Well, it never is.
It was about being, just being happy with each other.
I mean, I'm not saying don't have juices, but if you veer off from having a juice, or if the juice takes a different form one night, and you decide you're going to go through with it and have that juice, have it be nourishing to you.
Okay.
And the truth will always nourish you. The only thing that will deprive you of your just due, of your loving nourishment, is your decision against it. Is your decision to have the juice be the juice you think it is.
Yeah, like if you go into the shop and you go against it, then you're having a negative everything. But when
Well, you already decided
No,
against
but
everything.
you know what? You know what when I explained what I explained to you, Jeffrey, it was try to explain from whatever words I can do to say that God was with me and the whole thing turned around. And it was beautiful. It ended up beautiful. And it had nothing to do with the juice anymore. I'd like more of that.
Well, and right in the learning of that for you is the key to it all,
Yes.
is the lesson,
Exactly.
right? All you had, what did you give up to have that be a worthwhile experience? All you gave up was the idea that,
You gave up judgment.
yeah, you gave up judgment, that it was a bad
Judgment.
juice.
You know, and yeah, concepts, judgment, making them wrong, making the whole system wrong. There was a lot of stuff I was
Yeah, what
giving
if
up.
nothing was
The whole
wrong?
system I was giving up.
What if nothing was wrong anywhere? And you could be the truth teller, the one in any situation that could honor that could recognize that, stand up for the reality of that, and so bring an expanding gift of clarity and understanding that would be experienced as relief, healing for everyone. I mean, isn't that really the only thing missing in any situation in the world? Is the love you withhold. What is love? It's acceptance. What is love but the recognition that there is nothing wrong? You know, love isn't victorious over anything. It simply disappears or undoes all the other stuff that doesn't really exist.
Because even if I had chosen not to have the juice, even if I had made a decision not to, I still could have experienced love with
Totally.
those people.
And happiness and all
Yeah.
that, full self-expression. It couldn't ever be dependent upon a juice. Or,
You just go get some.
yeah, I mean, everybody tries. Everybody develops some system that involves versions of what's going to be good for me. And isn't it interesting that they invariably wind up with an inventory of things that they're sick to death of, including people who become their chosen ones. You know, the ones that are really going to be the ones that do it to them the way they want it done to them. You know, I mean, the way to give birth to aliveness, to fulfillment, to your soulmate, is to let your soulmate be everywhere. You know, everyone you meet is a part of that identity called soulful mating, soulful identification, soulful presence, soulful connection. If you get in the habit of meeting it and greeting it and honoring it and being thankful for it anywhere, you'll have it everywhere. Even unto those relationships that may have gotten a little stiff and stale in your life. The ones that, you know, represent some stress, conflict, not getting along, you know, I'm a little weary or fatigued of that relationship. What if all of those could be born again as well? And that the practice for that would be everywhere you would go. So that, you know, you got out of the business of identifying wrongness and really got with your true vocation, which is to behold rightness, righteousness. Everywhere, no matter what it looks like. I mean, that's really what the whole idea of exorcism really is. Exorcism was delivered in the ancient church practices, and exorcism was an experienced priest who knew that evil didn't exist. And so they could confront it in any form not by being against it, not by rejecting it or resisting it or trying to change it into something else, by recognizing simply what it really was beyond the facade, beyond the misunderstanding. Just before we began tonight, I had this thought, and the thought was that you can't understand anything at the level of perception. You got to get out of that attempt to try to make sense of what makes no sense. And everything at the level of perception is going to be grossly disappointing and troublesome. There's no way you can get to the experience you really want at the level of perception, because you can't understand anything at the level of appearances. If you want to understand things, you got to realize that nothing is the way it appears to me. He isn't, she isn't, it isn't. I'm not. You've got to give up all of that fantastic, inventive aspects of impoverished thinking, poor thinking, that depresses you to no end. And that leaves you in a lurch. It leaves you in a state of woeful need and deprivation.
Jeffrey, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was reading a book actually that Kevin recommended, The Science of Getting Rich. And it's out.
Science of Getting Rich.
Yes. Well, and it's nowhere near as shallow as the title.
That's
Oh,
why.
sure, no, yeah.
Yeah.
No, what I think it would be.
Yeah. No, okay. But one of the things they said that separates the people who are really successful who aren't is that they don't see anything as its appearance.
Yeah.
So a great example they give is that, a great scientist, a doctor, will not look at a disease and see a disease, they'll see a cure. They'll see, or, your rat example from last week, you don't see, a very sleazy rodent. You see someone who could save lives with a landmine. Like, it's all of that. And it's actually, when you think about it, it's extremely spiritual.
Totally.
And that's what comes with thinking like that.
Yeah, it's actually not even extreme spirituality, it's just spirituality.
Right.
Is to recognize that the reality of anything and everything is
It's
spiritual.
not by its appearance.
Not the form of its appearance. Nothing is the way I think it to be, I perceive it to be. The very earliest workbook lessons are all bringing that point home. That nothing that I see from these eyes, from this window, on this wall, with this mind, is the way it appears to be.
Well, that would make sense when you think that you're in a world that you think you're really in, and been seeing it, and looking from it, and understanding from it, and doing this, and this, and then coming into the world of the Course in Miracles, and recognizing that, of course, with the mind that I thought with, I can't possibly see with the, I have to go beyond to see with the mind, or allow a different perception.
See with your eyes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Utilize what God gives you, the mind He shares with you.
Right. And that's the thing you asked earlier. What do we want more of? What do we want to feel closer to? And that's exactly what. That's the
Well,
spot.
here's how to do it, right? The way to do it is be awake, watch your mind. Don't settle for any forms of diminished or belittled thinking. No forms of it. Always step up and into the willingness to see things as they are. And that decision is a decision to be open and receptive, so that the reality that I stand before can make itself known to me. See, I don't even have to figure out what it is. I don't even have to rely on any previous thinking. I can avoid all of that. I can find heaven anywhere I go, with anyone I'm with. All I have to realize is that the only thing you can ever be with or in is God's love. And the only thing you can ever be with is the holiness of His creation. That's all that exists. That's the way to, in biblical terms, cast out the sins of the world.
And how long have you personally been in that thinking?
I have no idea.
You don't know.
How could I measure? I mean, what would I measure with?
I mean, you had to pass through something from somewhere to somewhere before.
Same thing you're passing through right now.
Right. And
What are you passing through?
I'm passing through all thoughts, all that are not real into
They don't
reality.
really exist.
Right.
You're passing from what never had reality into the pleasure, the relief, the comfort, the assurance of reality. And how do you do that? How does that happen?
Be here now, don't judge, don't criticize.
Well, you're honest. You are honest. You are honest, right? You're being honest. You're recognizing that really there are no options here.
No.
There really isn't two worlds to live in. There's only God's creation. Right? So you're really not doing anything. You're really giving up or stepping outside of the whole idea that I need to do something, that I need to figure something out, that I need to act. See, the action of loving you, the action of creation in you has already happened. It's already accomplished. It already has set forth the way, the truth, and the life. Your job is to recognize it, accept it. And the only way you can accept it is through understanding, and the only way you can understand it is to give up your notions about what you think it is. The only place understanding is absent is in the conditional thoughts you think. The separate oriented thoughts that you think. That's where there's a gaping omission. In the reality
Can
of...
you explain that, what you just said?
Probably
I don't
not.
understand. I don't understand that.
Well,
I probably do, but I don't.
I like that. I think that'll do. I think that'll... Of course you do. I mean, you know, look, all understanding all distills down to loving presence. God is.
Right.
Perfect safety.
It's in the habit of having that thought with God, that God is, and
Well, no, He is, whether you have that, whether
No,
you
but I
accept
mean-
that thought or
I
not.
mean, having the experience of
Well, you train your mind to depart from its premises, from its assertions, from its false.
whole way of system thinking.
Yeah, from how do you do that? Forgiveness. What is forgiveness? Forgiveness is release, letting go. Forgiveness is my only function as light of the world. It's very simple. Forgiveness isn't having to remember anything. It's, in a sense, forgetting everything that I previously thought. It's the easiest thing. It's the only thing in the whole world that's easy. Because you don't have to do anything. You don't have to make anything of anything. It's the only thing that really speaks to that whole idea of let it be, and it will let you be. Everything is, you know, Jesus talks in the Course so beautifully about the flowers, they bud and they open for you. The songbirds sing in the morning for you. What he's really speaking about is that it's all for your glory. It's all in honor of you. It's all to return you to the breathtaking, indescribable beauty of your own aliveness, of the life you live but deprive yourself of, or attempt to deprive yourself of, in that itemized distortion called awareness, conditional awareness.
I think something that pertains to everything, just getting back to how you look at things, to rats or a disease, but what really what I made the connection this week is that it totally relates to intelligence. Like when you're in right mindfulness, you're thinking clearer. When you're in more of a divided type of thinking, you're very cut off from what the possibilities are in everything.
You're cut off from everything, yes. Yeah. Why would you want to do that since your reality and your identity is in and with everything? Right? Nothing really exists separate and apart from anything else. The universe, creation, is whole. That's what makes it holy. Your identity, your reality is in and of that holiness, that wholeness. That's unconditional. It's all inclusive. Remember, what can have no opposite? Love that is all encompassing has no opposite. Well, that love is what you are. That's the love that created you. So every situation where you perceive or think yourself to be in a situation or predicament or in the world is another opportunity to take that easiest and most profound of all steps out of the world. Out of the world I think I see, out of the thought I'm thinking. Because the truth of what you are, the reality of the thought that gives you life is completely beyond all that. You don't have to become the Christ, you are the Christ. You don't have to become the kingdom, you are the kingdom. All the Course in Miracles is a system that meets you and greets you in the unreality that you think yourself to be in, and provides you with a very intelligent, kind, gentle, and powerful reference to let all of that go, to let all of that be undone for you. And you're never in a situation that has anything that is offering you anything but a way to contribute and expand that. Everyone you share that experience with becomes part of that infinite understanding that you cannot hold on to. But you don't need to hold on to it because that infinite understanding is what you are. You don't have to hold on to love. Your need is only to recognize that love is what you are. How else can it follow you everywhere you go? How else can the truth be here but your willingness to depart from the idea that there could possibly be anything other than the truth? Out of which comes, there's nothing to fear. Out of which comes, there is no fear. God created love. Everything else is only your own nightmare, your own imagining. You don't have to be afraid of your own imagining. An imagined idea, an imagined thought, offers you one significant opportunity, and that's the ability to let go of it and declare yourself free of it. Because what you are and who you are is God's thought for you now. And as you become more interested in that, you'll understand it as an experience, an abstract experience that is with you always, and which you can rejoice in anytime you elect to think of it. So, do you lose your world? Yeah, but not at any cost to you. You still see it, but everything in that world of hurt, everything in that world of distance, everything in that world of condition comes alive in a new way. And everybody understands exactly what you mean without the need to really explain it or describe it. They see it on your face. They feel it in your joy. They feel it in your well-being. And it's that well-being which resonates in the wellness that is everywhere. That's how to bless it. That's how to emphasize it. That's how to raise it up. Raise it up out of the unconsciousness of the decision not to know it so that it can become part of the known right here, right now. Not through intellectualizing, not through any particular action that would need be done, but just through the sheer pleasure of sharing joy. Well, what is joy? Joy is understanding. Love is understanding. It's not a cerebral thing, right? In order to have love, you give up all your ideas about love. That's how to have it everywhere. That's how to feel it in the very nature of who you are and what you are. Let it come home to you. Let it reveal itself to you. How else can you know yourself but in that revelatory experience of being willing to see that incomprehensible love anywhere and everywhere, no matter where I look, no matter where I seem to be? So that the situation, the circumstance, the perception can reveal itself beyond the idea I may have had of it, or I may be forming of it. See, your life, your reality is faster than all that. It's because your reality is loving presence. It's infinite understanding here now. You don't have to figure any of that up. You just figure any of that out. You just have to be willing to depart from everything you are figuring out, even as you seem to try to figure it out. Once you get the hang, you get to feel that, it's like your mother and father. I always use this, and it seems to have value. Your mother and father, or somebody in your family, probably taught you how to ride a bike. And no matter how much you tried to remember what they told you, all that led to was you falling. You never felt balance for one instant when you were trying to remember what they told you, or what you now believe to be the ability to ride a bike if I could only remember what they said. All that ever caused you to do was to fall. It was in that moment where you just couldn't bear, you just couldn't go back to that decrepit, meaningless thought ever again, because it was so painful and so unproductive that you discovered how to ride a bike. You learned how to ride a bike by not trying to remember anything, by trusting that that memory is already known to me. And it will present itself to me if I don't get in the way of it. When you think about balance, riding a bike, all that stuff is happening faster than you can think about it. That's really what the enjoyment of riding a bike is you're constantly being reminded of something you always knew and know now that's occurring to you in a far more appealing and attractive and comforting way than all that stuff that you think about all the time that is so cumbersome and misleading and has so much gravity to it, ballast, weight to it. It's that brain-heavy stuff. Well, enlightenment isn't brain-heavy stuff at all. Enlightenment is light. It's truth. It's everything, everywhere, always. As your reference for information, as your decision to know as you go, know as I go. Well, how can you know as you go unless you're willing to be informed by the ever-present, unbelievable, incomprehensible creation that's completely beyond anything I can think? You don't have to think of it to know it. You just have to be willing to accept it, to recognize it in yourself, in everything. because it's simultaneous. You know, as you become more and more willing to, you know, let reality be reality, it starts encroaching. You know, all of a sudden you'll discover reality is what you are, it's who you are.
Call from Alicia.
Allie?
I'm back. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay, no sweat.
My phone died, but it's now live.
Jeff, don't put that next to the recorder.
Oh,
That's
okay,
not the recorder.
okay.
Thank you.
Yep. So I don't know, is this too abstract?
My only idea from what you're saying is, you know, when we talk about riding a bike, we're talking about children riding a bike. And children haven't been taught yet that thinking is this wonderful thing that we should be doing all damn day long and not trusting our intuition. Children are understanding very quickly that intuition has gotten me to speak, it's gotten me to walk, and probably it's also going to get me to ride a bike no matter what my parents say. But at some point, we take the parents and the teachers seriously enough and we say, yes, thinking, I'll sign up for that. That'll be my solution to my thinking problems.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, of course, it becomes the problem.
Of course, that's what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah. So, into all that, Helen Schuckman and Bill Thetford said there's got to be another way.
Absolutely.
You know, there has to be another way other than this left brain approach to everything, thinking everything to death, thinking the life out of it, everything becoming an experience of hardship and difficulty and stress and strain. What if that had absolutely nothing at all to do with anything?
Yeah.
And that every moment that you misdirected your energy into that idea, you were depriving yourself of the easiest thing in all of the universe of God creating. You were depriving yourself of loving understanding, loving acceptance, of total goodness. You were depriving yourself of the riches of the kingdom, which are everywhere unto every living thing. This is a course in miracles, not in theoretical speculation. Since theorizing and believing and conditional mentality is the problem, the Course meets you there. The idea of the miraculous, what is the miraculous? It's loving presence. It's God's infinite mercy, infinite I love you, how can I help? Meeting you where you think you are and then offering you in the moment solutions to reverse your previous thinking. Everything about the miracle is to reverse what I thought. It's to release it. It's to come out from under the unreality of it. That's what a miracle does. It undoes the past. It undoes all that historical oblivion. It undoes it. It shines it away. In the present, in the right here, right now of your life and living, so that the future can be good to you and kind to you and different and enlivening and just be what it is, instead of all that dreadful stuff based on no reality, based on unreality at all, based on separate thinking, based on misunderstanding, based on impoverished thought. This is miracles introduce the end of all that. Actually, it introduces the end of all of this in the present. It cuts to the chase. It gets you to what you're going to realize for yourself at some moment when you concede resisting it, it brings all that to you now without having to go through any lengthy process or time sequence to get to it. I mean, if you really, when you say, I want more God now, I want more love now, I want more comfort, I want more freedom now, what you're really saying is, I want more truth now, I want more life now. And remember, you can't have a little of that. You can't have a little of that and then maintain.
Your other stuff.
Yeah, you have to be willing to concede I have no other stuff, even though I may think of it, but I don't have any other stuff I would keep, I would argue for, I would grandstand about. I have plenty of thoughts, but I am God's thought. That's the thought that gives me maximum elevation, upward mobility, inward mobility. It's God's thought. It's not mine. It's no worldly thought. That's what Helen and Bill realized. I mean, here they were standing at the apex of the best thinking that mankind and the psychological sciences were capable of. And it was a hornet's nest of conflict and anger and competitiveness and weariness, terror and fearfulness, and
Discourtesy.
it was a hellhole. And they realized that and said, there's got to be another way. And instantaneous other way began to present itself. What was the big deal about what they declared other than there's got to be another way and I'll help you find it? That's all they decided. Well, it seems to me it's precisely that simple. Help others find it in order to have it for yourself. Because my identity, my reality is in the other. It's in Ilsa. It's in Rebecca. It's in Will. It's in Honora. It's in Fred. It's in Kevin. It's in all those people who wanted to be here tonight but aren't. And all those people who didn't want to be here tonight and who maybe are clueless to that, we're having such a conversation. It's in them too. So that this business of the miraculous can come off the pages, can come out of the book, can come out of the privatized teachings, can come out of the religions, and make itself plain and knowable to us everywhere we go. An unconditional remedy, an unconditional solution, as a corrective offering, gift, in the midst of what appears to be unending condition, compromising condition. Let's read.
Anybody else need one?
Okay, thanks.
So our topic for tonight is the escape from darkness. While Kevin is out, I'll wait till he comes back. I saw a movie which you may have seen or you might be interested in. It's kind of an unusual movie, very, very well made, called The Accountant.
Oh, I know it's out now.
Ben Affleck movie. That's an extremely violent movie, but it's a love story. And that's all I'll say about it. If you like Ben Affleck, if you like the characters and the roles that he plays, he's incredible in it. And it's primarily a love story, but there's a lot of violence and there's a lot of typical worldly misunderstanding stuff. But somehow in the midst of all of that historical, conditional, problematic past, love finds a way. And love takes the tragedy of misunderstanding, of human misunderstanding, and turns that tragedy into a lesson of love. That's pretty abstract. I'm not giving away anything about the movie, right? So, yeah. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. Very. I mean, I came out of that movie just like I loved it, and yet again, it was very, very violent. There was a lot of violence in it, and what appeared to be tragic misunderstanding, and yet love. Yeah, love overcame all of it as the indwelling, underlying element that's really at work in all things. And the only thing that's necessary is that you would be willing to see it, to learn of it. That you would be willing to be open at any given moment to see things differently.
Sounds like a Course in Miracles.
Well, it is, but so what isn't? You know, as you become more and more of the mind that God shares with you, everything is a miracle. You know, there isn't anything to feel bad about. There isn't anything to defend yourself against or to judge against. There isn't anything else. Everything is just only for your own good. I mean, those are Jesus's words right in the Course. Everything is for your own good. Yeah.
What page are we on?
The page, I'm not sure, but it is chapter 1. Subtitle 4, The Escape from Darkness.
Is it chapter 1?
Yeah. Yeah, we went back to 1. I don't know.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, you know.
Does not matter.
I mean, in the whole idea
The
of
one thing I'm
time,
sure of it
Page
doesn't matter.
8.
every
I
moment.
did my feel.
What's that?
I just saw Escape from Darkness. I liked it.
Yeah, no, it's totally perfect. I mean, any page could.
It doesn't with the Course.
You could
Makes no
tear
sense.
out all the pages in the Course and cut up all the paragraphs and mix them up any way you wanted to mix them up, and you'd still. And if you read it, your mind would still concede. So, all right, everybody have it?
Mm-hmm.
The escape from darkness. What's the most obvious and readily idea that would suffice as the escape from darkness?
Shedding light, bringing light to.
I am the light. There is no darkness. God is the light. God is undivided. There is no darkness, right? Shorten the God created light. Everything else is only my own misperceptions. That's how to get the heart and soul of what's going to serve you and serve the apparent others simultaneously. Completely levels the playing field. The escape from darkness is the recognition that there's no darkness that I need to escape from, because I'm the light. The escape from darkness involves 2 stages. First, the recognition that darkness cannot hide. This step usually entails fear, because in an uncorrected mind, most of us are thinking in terms of something to hide, something bad, something wrong. Second, the recognition, and it's the idea that something is wrong that engenders fear, that conjures up the perception of the fearful. Second, the recognition that there is nothing you would want to hide if you could. That's the first correction. There's nothing I would want to hide, even if I could. That begins the egress, so to speak, away from illusions. There's nothing to hide, therefore nothing to fear. There isn't anything wrong. There isn't anything bad. There's nothing beyond the loving truth. There's nothing outside of truth. And therefore, there is nothing you would want to hide. Nothing I would want to hide, even if I thought I could. This step brings escape from fear. When you have become willing to hide nothing, you will not only be willing to enter into communion, but will also understand peace and joy. Understanding. Peace and joy is understanding. You can't understand anything when you're fearful, because you've already decided against understanding. Remember, all understanding is love. You decide against love, you feel fear, you perceive fear, and you understand nothing. When you have become willing to hide nothing, you will not only be willing to enter into communion, but will also understand peace and joy. Communion is communication with God. Holy here now as my witness. Holiness can never be really hidden in darkness, but you can deceive yourself about it. Well, holiness can never be really hidden in darkness. Why?
There's no such thing as darkness.
Because there's no such thing as darkness. Darkness is not real. There's nothing to judge against. Fear is not real. That's how to be awake. That's how to be beyond the distortion, beyond the illusion, beyond the idea that I have a history, that there is a history, that there is a past, and that it involves likable, agreeable, and disagreeable elements. There isn't anything disagreeable about your nature as God created it. And therefore, there's nothing disagreeable about anything. Jesus says right in the Course, without judgment, everything would immediately become acceptable to you. It doesn't mean you would be accepting of unacceptable qualities. It means you would have taken that step beyond the idea that there's anything real that could be unacceptable. Nothing would be unacceptable to you, because all would be love. It would all be one thing. It would all be perfectly understandable. Thank you, Father. Holiness can never be really hidden in darkness, but you can deceive yourself about it. This deception makes you fearful because you realize in your heart it is a deception. And you exert enormous efforts to establish its reality. That's the thing that most of us are unaware of. Most of the time we think ourselves to be in time and in trouble, is the enormous exertion of effort, mental, psychic energy we're misdirecting in order to produce the experience of being afraid and having something to fear. We're literally not aware of our own thoughts. Not aware or in any way able to be responsible for them. To be responsible for them is to recognize them for what they are, is to see them truly. To recognize it as a thought, not reality. Just because I think it doesn't make it so. Just because I seem to see it doesn't make it so. Because you realize in your heart it is a deception, and you exert enormous efforts to establish its reality. The miracle sets reality where it belongs. Reality belongs only to spirit, and spirit is what you are. Spirit is forever in a state of grace forever. Your reality is only spirit. Therefore, you are in a state of grace forever. divine thinking. That's miraculous thinking. Reality belongs only to spirit, and spirit is what you are. You're not a body in a world. You're not a personality. And in no way, as you perceive yourself to be, reality belongs only to spirit, and your reality is only spirit. And the miracle acknowledges only truth, and truth is what you are. It thus dispels illusions about yourself and puts you in communion with yourself and God. It dispels illusions about yourself and puts you in communion with yourself and God. Communication. It restores communication. How does it restore communication? By dispelling illusions that seem to interrupt or take the place of my true identity, my true relationship with myself. Illusions take the place of my reality, my loving relationship with myself and to God who created me, loving and lovable. Why would I possibly want to hold on to any thought that in any way would cause such grief and despair and general and overall unpleasantness, right? You want to become unwilling to enter into such feelings. Just unwilling. Unwilling. The miracle joins in the atonement, the at-one-ment, the what is, the miracle, the holy instant. The miracle joins in the atonement, in the at-one-ment, by placing the mind in the service of the Holy Spirit. Remember, Holy Spirit is the part of your mind that can't forget. This establishes the proper function of the mind. The mind has a proper function. It's creative, it's loving, it's joyful. It rejoices in all things. This establishes, by placing the mind in service of the Holy Spirit, this establishes the proper function of the mind and corrects its errors, which are merely lacks of love. But what is all-encompassing cannot be lacking. All correction of errors is the reestablishment of love, loving identity. The opportunity to become reacquainted with the greatest love of all, the love you have for yourself, for your reality, for your Creator in whom all gratitude is due, for what you are and who you are. Miracles undo or shine away the distortions that deprive you of your just due, that deprive you of justice, of mercy. And all mercy and all justice is love. The greatest love you've ever longed for, hoped for, wished for, dreamed about is already true in you, within you as yourself. And you can spend every consecutive moment of now being informed by that self, by that loving intelligence, by that out of this world understanding that understands you in the most loving and lovable of ways. Yourself understands you. Yourself affords you the greatest compassion, the greatest empathy. The deepest assurance. Your mind can be possessed by illusions, but spirit is eternally free. See, if you realize, wait a minute, spirit is free, my reality is only spirit, then you've already taken a leap of faith out of the illusory state of being possessed by illusions. All you need to remember is your identity is only spirit. God is spirit, Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit is what I am, therefore. God didn't create bodies. There are no bodies. Spirit is eternally free. If a mind perceives without love, which it can't really do, but it can seem to, if a mind perceives without love, it perceives an empty shell and is unaware of the spirit within. That's a pretty good definition of perceiving as an ego perceptions. It costs you love, it costs you understanding, it costs you everything that's real and meaningful and vital and immediately available to you. It costs you all of that. You have to throw all of that away to buy in to any isolated, worldly, egocentric thought, conditional thought, fearful thought. If you perceive without love, you will perceive an empty shell. Everything will just flatten out and become empty and meaningless. Not because infinite meaning isn't available. Infinite spirit is available. Infinite spirit is totally available, but you chose to overlook it. You sided against it. And what that produces is the experience you call fear. The mundane, the profane, the ephemeral, the lost in space and time. I don't know, the experience of I don't know what I am, I don't know who I am. The terror that comes by night. But the atonement, the at-one-ment, restores spirit to its proper place. Where's the proper place of the at-one-ment? Holy here now in my mind. Holy here now in my mind. Let's get that right. Holy here now, in Holy Spirit here now in my mind. Right, you know, that's...
In your mind, but not thinking.
Pardon me?
In our mind, but not thinking.
Yeah, or even if I am thinking, let it stand before my thinking. Yeah. God's thought is before anything I can think. Let his thought, which is timeless, everlasting and eternal, always was, is now, always will be, let his thought for me be in my mind. Even while I seem to be in the midst of thinking. Because nothing can overshadow God's thought for me. Nothing. Except your decision to not have it. To disagree with it, to deny it. Right?
To separate.
To separate. The whole problem of separation is one of unconscious denial. The correction is simple. It's the decision to be awake. It's the decision to remember. The decision to let go of any thoughts that represent that denial, whatever form it might come in. Let Holy Spirit here now be in my mind. Let the light illuminate my mind so that I can be awake in my experience, in my aliveness, and be quick to side with God and his kingdom. To forgive, to let go of all the nonsense that I conjure up or think myself to see that doesn't really exist. Let what doesn't really exist go back to where it came from. so that everything that is real and true here and now can make itself known to me. It's an experience of instantaneous, immediate understanding that's completely incomprehensible to the worldly mind, but completely knowable to you. How do you know it? You feel good. You just feel,
If somebody was watching a horror film, and I had girlfriends who can't watch horror films because
yeah, there are films I would
take
watch.
They
Sure.
take it like it's
Sure.
it's real.
It's
I
a
mean,
little too whatever.
Yeah, they get caught up in the possibility of that could be a reality, right?
Sure.
But I think I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like we could watch the film and be involved even in the film and be interested in how it goes, and yet the whole time sort of just always remembering that, well, that's just not real.
Totally.
And yet I could enjoy the story, I could be interested in how my story ends
As
up.
a story, from a writing point of view, from an acting point of view, from a script writing point of view, yeah, but it wouldn't obligate you or anybody else to have to watch it.
Right. I forget. It's almost like we forget that we can get up and turn the TV off.
Yeah, exactly, and that's something that I do frequently. You know, when I notice, you know, I'm sort of fading away. You know, I'm not present. I'm not thinking, and so I'll turn the TV off. Or when I'm watching something that is just not particularly interesting to me on any level, or disturbing to me on some level, and I just turn it off.
I'm talking about the mental TV that we all have.
Yeah, that's what I'm
That's what
talking
you're
about
talking
too.
about. Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about all this. You know, this,
You're not possessed by the illusions.
which you won't be if you're awake in it, if you see it for what it is.
Yeah.
Illusions are not reality. Only the creations of God have reality. They are everywhere, always. They are indestructible and invulnerable. And I'm here to honor God's work in everyone, in every living thing, in every situation. So that everything in every moment, no matter what I think it is, can become the birthplace of a miracle of relief, a miracle of joy, a miracle of smiling instead of frowning, a miracle of connecting instead of being alone.
And getting back to that metaphor, turning off the TV or going away from the movie could be, you know, just being alone with your thoughts, or going to the book, or meditating, but it's some form of healthier mindset.
Sure.
I mean,
Along,
when you get caught up in your story,
yeah.
you got to do something to get away from it.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, I mean,
Because it's noble.
if you're doing this and your leg starts hurting, you can do this.
That's right.
Or this. Or stand up. You know, think of how many times during the day where if you just did that, if you stood up and just stretched and just, I don't know, shook your head and your mind a second, just rejoiced in this moment of holy instant, you know, you would feel relief. You would feel life moving in you. And from that little bit of life could come more life and more life and more life and more unconditional thinking, and all of a sudden you're just, you know, you're just gone, not in this world anymore, you know. And walking down the street and the dogs see it and the children see it and the people see it, people smile at you. I mean, it's incredible how much you can move things in people just by being joyful. Just, you know, not putting on a coat hanger smile, but just being happy for no particular reason.
Genuine.
Happiness is reason enough. If you spend a little time in being happy, it'll convince you of its own validity, of the intensity of it, the appropriateness of it, the value of it, the presence of it, what it's rooted in and founded in.
Excuse me.
That's okay.
Just me.
Yeah. So,
That was a delicious yawn, though, I have to say. that last sentence.
So the atonement restores spirit to its proper place. The proper place is in the mind you share with God. That's where the at-one-ment is, not in separate thinking. And the mind that serves spirit is invulnerable. The mind that serves spirit is invulnerable. And no matter what you do or what you think, your mind serves spirit, whether you're aware of it or not. I mean, ultimately, that's what true correction is. It undoes what never was. Dreams are dreams. No matter how convincing and compelling the dream of separation is, it did not happen. There's no separation in the mind of God. There's no dreaming. There's no unconsciousness. There are no levels of awakening in the mind of God. There's only being awake. And that's where you are. That's what you're in the midst of. You might as well try it out. That's what Marianne Williamson says when she says to people, try love instead of fear. The new frontier is love, not fear. You've tried scaring the hell out of yourself. How's it going? How's it work? Try love. Love is being kind to myself. Love is being benevolent. Love is being honest, being direct, being present, being abundantly resourceful, being giving to myself, being gentle, kind, all of those things that are well within your capability, your function, because the purpose of your mind is to serve spirit, right? It's spirit, mind, body is the model, right? Be identified with spirit to have the mind that serves spirit. That's the mind you share with God, in order to have life in your peace, in your representation, for as long as you seem to have a position in space and time. But it'll now represent and reflect what's beyond space and time. It'll reflect holy here now, the unconditional. Heaven on earth. Heaven being born on earth right now. You don't have to wait for Christmas, for the second coming. You need to understand you are the second coming. It's a collective experience. It's all-inclusive. It involves everyone you've ever known, everyone you know now, and everyone you will ever know. It's a total experience, a total immersement. Being of the mind you share with God. It includes every other mind you think you're communicating with, no matter where that mind is perceived. It's all one mind. It's all one linkage. It's all one inheritance. Darkness is lack of light as sin is lack of love. It has no unique properties of its own because darkness doesn't really exist. It can't really have any property. It is an example of the scarcity belief from which only error can proceed. Truth is always abundant. It always involves everything, everywhere, always. Unconditionality. That's what truth is. That's what you are. You are that, which is everywhere, always. What else could you be if that's what God creates with? If God's thought is unconditional, that makes you unconditional whether you like it, agree to it, or not. You're going to feel a lot better when you go into agreement with it, when you begin to train your mind to think acceptingly of that, receptively of that. As you learn to think in terms of agreement, God becomes known to you. Love becomes known to you. Christ is born again within you as yourself. Truth is always abundant. Therefore, you have. Those who perceive and acknowledge that they have everything have no needs of any kind. The purpose of the at-one-ment, of the atonement, is to restore everything to you or rather to restore it to your awareness. I really love that thought because it does indicate that everything is already yours. It need only be restored in your awareness. Your awareness is that part of your thinking that you defend, that you guard over, that you protect, that you maintain at great energy, psychic effort, which is fatiguing and unnecessary. There's nothing you need to defend yourself against. You can't lose. Loss is impossible. Infinite life cannot lose. Infinite life is what you are. So the purpose of the atonement is to restore everything to you, or rather restore it to your awareness. You were given everything. When you were created, you were given everything, just as everyone was, because everyone is part of your oneness. There's only one thing. Every creature, great and small, all of it is all a part of one totality, one reality, one infinitely enriching experience. It's incomprehensible to the worldly mind, but known to you in your heart, in the mind you share with God. This is what calls you home, what beckons you, what has your attention. The emptiness engendered by fear must be replaced by forgiveness. Forgiveness is the way out of illusion, the way out of fear, the illusion of fear. The way out of the illusion of scarcity, of lack. Love is everything. It's the totality. It's the infinitude of God's intelligent, loving, giving presence. That is what the Bible means by there is no death, and why I could demonstrate that death does not exist. I came to fulfill the law by reinterpreting it. The law itself, if properly understood, offers only protection. It is those who have not yet changed their minds who brought the hellfire concept into it. I assure you that I will witness for anyone who lets me, and to whatever extent he permits it. Your witnessing demonstrates your belief and thus strengthens it. Those who witness for me are expressing through their miracles that they have abandoned the belief in deprivation in favor of the abundance they have learned belongs to them. That okay? Will you be able to make do with that?
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Oh man, thank you guys.